Hey, another big commitment for Georgia. Commitment number 27. It's Chris Cole. Georgia survives the stretch run here for Chris Cole. They went into a couple of late visits with some with the lead, and they held on to it. And Roos, I'm as high on this guy as I have been almost any defensive player in Georgia's class, not named Justin Williams or Ellis Robinson.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that this is kind of one of your guys for this class. There's a lot to love about Chris Cole, man. I mean, perfect frame, just built for it, dude. Plays really aggressively, plays physically. You just love everything you see about this guy. I think in terms of, a bigger linebacker. He's not that, 6 foot kind of shaved off guy that like a Roquan Smith type, right? But he kind of plays with some of that same ferocity, I would say. That's definitely a part of his game. As you said, you kind of beat out that stretch run. Official visits to Southern Cal, who ended up being a pretty big factor in this recruitment. And then Tennessee just this weekend, spent some time in Knoxville. Maybe he wasn't real impressed with what he saw against Austin Peay. I don't know. But I think overall, it's a great get for Georgia. It would have been a great get for anybody. This kid is one of those guys, too, who was kind of undeniable from the time he burst onto the scene. Like when Chris Cole's offers started rolling, it just took off, man. I mean, he kind of went straight to the moon in terms of ranking, in terms of exposure, in terms of people seeing him, checking out his game. So a lot of people out there super high on him. I know we are over at On3. Number 51 overall player in the country per the On300. We got him ranked higher than anybody else in the industry. Number 54 overall in the country per the industry ranking. So people are high on this kid, and I totally get it, man. When you turn the tape on, it's pretty easy to see why.
That first clip in that highlight where he folds that kid in half, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, he is one thing I love about him, Jake, is the fact that and on his film, you see him line up in the box as an off-ball linebacker, but you also see him line up way out there over the slot. From a size standpoint, like in terms of how big he's going to be, he gives you a little bit of Quay Walker, Smile Munden vibes.
Yep.
He gives me a lot of Smile Munden vibes, just period. But he's unlike Quay Walker. He doesn't play on the edge, like he's not an outside guy. Quay Walker played some in space, but he also did some of that other stuff. It probably helped Georgia a lot that Chris Cole got to witness Tennessee wrestle a coin purse full of pennies away from Austin Peay this weekend. I mean, that was just that was two mules fighting over a turnip, basically. And there were a lot of boos in that crowd, stuff like that. I mean, I understand Tennessee fans being fired up about that one, but here's the thing, man. He visited Tennessee that last week in July, right? And he was there for 2 days, and Georgia was the leader going into that, and it didn't move the needle much. Like, in the long term, I think there's probably a little bit of a visit high coming out of that. But here, am I watching catch a bubble screen?
I believe that is what you just witnessed, my friend.
Oh, man. I do love these guys who play both ways. We saw a lot of that out of Tennessee yesterday, by the way, a lot of bubble screens. And you see a lot of those little hitch routes like that out of Georgia. But Tennessee just wasn't able to kind of get it going. USC made an impression on them. They did. But one of the things you run into with being USC is you are far away from a lot of stuff. Yeah. And Salem, Virginia is one of those places you're far away from. And I think he's a really good player. I think he's a very versatile player. It wouldn't shock me. We've seen Darius Smith do it. We've seen Leonard Floyd, Walter Grant, Leonard Floyd, Lorenzo Carter. Did I say Leonard Floyd twice?
You did.
Lorenzo Carter. Yeah. Leonard Floyd's good, man. But we've seen those guys do it. And I think he could be kind of that hybrid, Sam linebacker star. In the guy that they kind of use in some heavier packages and things of that nature. Because you see some of that coming back in college football. You're seeing a little bit of 12 personnel come back for some teams. If you watch the Alabama-Texas game last night, Alabama, that power run game, power running quarterbacks. This guy fits in real well if you want to use him in that kind of way because he's that athletic. And doesn't he have some crazy 100-meter times or some track times or some 40 times or something like that out there, Roos?
Yeah, I think something like that's out there. I'd have to brush up on exactly what it was in terms of the exact numbers, but he's real quick. I want to say he's like a 4.4 guy. if I'm not mistaken. I think that that was like with a trainer, maybe lasered though. That stuff's out there for sure. I agree with your comparison. Like you said, Quay Walker, Smile Munden, those are the guys that definitely come to mind for me. Walker, especially. And I think one of the things, too, that I see about Cole on tape is he's really well put together, but he looks like he's probably got some room to add some bulk if he wants to, man. I mean, he could probably get this thing up to, we got him listed right now at 210. He could probably play at 225 pretty easily. I don't think he'd have much of a problem carrying that around. And that would just allow for even further physicality. Over on his profile on On3, the comparison they've got, a pretty high comparison here. Baron Browning from Ohio State, similar size, a lot of athleticism. Baron Browning, a 5-star guy. So, Georgia getting a guy here who, big ceiling on him, in my opinion. I think the rankings reflect that. I don't know that he'll get into that 5-star territory. It's not like he's not just playing world beaters out there. It's not a school we hear a lot about, anything like that. But Cole's a guy who a lot of teams put a lot of effort into. Virginia Tech has to be feeling salty about this. I think he visited there like over 10 times. So, it was an easy trip for him, obviously, but Georgia really impressed him. And the thing that really stood out to me about it is when you go back and you listen to the things that he said about the coaching staff in Athens. He was really impressed with Glenn Schumann, his development. He took note of all of that in a really big way and said, these guys can help me get to where I want to be in the end. And I think that that's what ended up kind of putting Georgia over the top. You get to stay on the East Coast and you get the opportunity to play in a room that's filled with stars, man. But guys who are getting opportunities, right? We're seeing it with CJ Allen. We're seeing Raylan Wilson get in these early in these games, early in Georgia's season. So we see an opportunity for young guys, and the development's clear. The talent's clear. He's got a room to fight with, even with the guys he's coming in with. Justin Williams and Chris Jones are two tremendous players in their own right. But Chris Cole has all the tools necessary to succeed. And it's going to be fun to see how this competition plays out with him in the mix as well.
Another aspect of this whole thing is the fact that, Georgia was sitting here, let's say 3, 4, 5 months ago, and they're thinking, man, let's get Sammy Brown. Let's get the cat that ended up at Auburn.
Marcus Riddick.
Yeah. Both of those cats that ended up at Auburn, DeMarcus Riddick and Joseph Phillips, right?
Yep.
Like, hey, let's get these guys. Hey, we feel great about these guys. Let's do it. Let's, awesome. Gonna get Sammy Brown. He's in your backyard. Gonna get Joseph Phillips. You lead for him. Gonna get DeMarcus Riddick because he's on your commitment list. None of those guys are going to end up at Georgia. I don't know that Georgia didn't do just as good or better. They went and got Justin Williams. They went and got Chris Cole. They went and got Chris Jones. Listen, we had Justin Williams on Bark After Dark. He was great. He's the number one inside linebacker, number one linebacker in the country, almost the consensus number one linebacker if you look at it right there.
Yeah.
Chris Cole as high upside as you'll get. Chris Jones, a guy that plays running back and linebacker, over also from Virginia. Incredible job by Georgia of, all right, listen, if you're from Georgia and Alabama and you don't want to go to Georgia, let's go to Texas and Virginia and we'll grab you there. It's incredible kind of what Glenn Schumann did here. And not only that, think about 6 elite, or not elite. Maybe elite's a little strong word for all of these guys, but 6 very, very good linebackers that Georgia was very, very much in the mix for. How do you do that? Like, how do you get, because Glenn Schumann's involved in a lot of other stuff too in terms
I'll
of
tell you how you win Butkus awards. You get guys drafted.
I guess so.
I mean, the proof's in the pudding, dude. Glenn Schumann's got the touch right now, and I think that's coming clear with these kids. What's really interesting to me about this group is, compared to last year, is the size. It's a much different class physically than last year's group was. CJ Allen is not the biggest dude in the world. Raylan Wilson's probably 6'1" on a good day, right?
Definitely got bigger and longer at this position.
Troy Bowles is probably knocking on the door of 6 feet, and he's probably not there. So, I mean, it's these guys are, probably true 6'1.5", 6'2" guys in this class. And I think that really it's interesting. You're going to have a good mix, I think, of size, of speed, and it's going to allow you some flexibility to do some different things in that inside linebacker room, change your packages up.
27 commitments, number one class in the country. Georgia keeps getting it done. They keep getting it done at inside linebacker. And, listen, the class is not finished yet. Georgia's going to have a massive recruiting weekend coming up for South Carolina. They want more defensive linemen. I don't even know what to say after that. I don't know what's left for them to get. I think maybe they just kind of cherry pick, maybe try to flip a guy here, maybe a safety. They offered a safety out of North Carolina here recently. I really do not want to butcher that young man's name because he is a fantastic football player.
Malcolm Ziegler.
What's that?
Malcolm Ziegler is his name.
Oh, where
he's from that you don't want to pronounce.
Yes, that's what I don't want to butcher. That's what I don't want to butcher. But Georgia's still got some lines in the water here, and they're trying to get some players. So we'll have that covered for you over at DawgsHQ. Come over, try us out 1 month for $1, and we would love to have you. All right, 27 commitments, number one class. Enough said on that.
Rolling.
Just keeps rolling. Y'all take care.